Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Mr. Yurko here. We're going to go ahead and show you how to make this cool nameplate. Of course, when you make yours, you're going to add your own name to it or your own nickname or saying whatever you want. This is a gadget that we're going to be able to make here in Onshape, and then we're going to be able to print out using a laser cutter so that you'll have a physical product when done. You can use it by itself as a sign. You could add it to something else. You could put a light behind it and make it a lighted backdrop, not lighted display, or you could use it as a stencil. So this is a pretty cool activity. Let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is going to open up, create a new Part Studio. Of course, you should have a document. You should name the document nameplate. As always, we're going to start a sketch. We're going to start this one on the front plane. Tapping the N key, Nancy, on your keyboard will get you to the normal view. You can also click the front button on the view cube here on the side. Remember that your view cube lets you quickly rotate to different viewpoints. And using your mouse, though, with the wheel, you can scroll in and out with the mouse wheel, and you can pan side to side using the mouse wheel as well. Scrolling the wheel zooms in and out, and it zooms on the place wherever you put your mouse. Notice right now my mouse is on the origin, so if I put my mouse on the origin, I scroll in, the origin stays center. I put my mouse over here at the end of my work plane image. You see that's where we're zooming in and out. If I zoom in and out on the word front, staying closer to the front. So that's how the mouse wheel works. If you push straight down on the mouse wheel until it clicks and then move side to side, you'll be able to pan around. If you don't have a mouse, the Z key zooms out and Shift Z zooms in. And of course, hitting the front button will auto scale everything to the middle of the screen. All right, with that stuff aside, let's go ahead and start this model. I'm going to put this in the center of the space in the workspace. So I'm going to turn my planes off by tapping P just because they annoy me. And we're going to use the center point rectangle R. Notice that when you drop down a menu, you can see shortcut keys identified. And of course, if you hover over something with your mouse, some instructions will pop up. So we want the center point rectangle. And I'm going to click and release on the center point and tap. Now I want to add some dimensions to the part. I can, with some special clicking, just type that in immediately. But frankly, I find tapping the escape key and using the dimension tool at the top of the screen to be the most reliable option, or just tapping the D key on your keyboard, which will select a dimension. We're going to go ahead and dimension the top of the rectangle by hovering our mouse over the line at the top of the rectangle. And whenever it highlights to this golden, yellow, red, whatever color pops up in your eyes, changes color, whenever it highlights. You're going to click and release the mouse. Let's click and release. Then you move your mouse up off of the object. Now, where do you put this? Well, technically, it really doesn't matter. Because all we're doing is measuring the object. What it does do for you, though, is it is good practice to put the number between the arrows as close to centered as possible, and off of the object far enough that you can easily read it. It's a bad place to put it here. It's a bad place to put it here, and it's a worse place to put it along here. So good spot right there. Let's go ahead and make that 4 inches. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same for the side. This time we'll just set it to 1 inch. All right, now that we have that set, we're going to go ahead and name that nameplate. You'll notice that I'm going to be doing all of my typing in all caps. That is a good practice, that is best practice for working with technical drawings because it is easier to read, particularly across multiple languages, and it is a standard for producing drawings. So here you go. Now we have a rectangle, not exactly a nameplate yet. So what are we going to do next? What I'm going to do next is we're going to extrude that into a 3D object. Hover the mouse over the extrude tool, click on the extrude, or you can just tap the E key and then click the space that you would like to extrude. So we're going to take the mouse over and we're going to click on that rectangle and release, and you'll see that it becomes a block. We don't need the block to be that thick, so we're just going to go 1/8 of an inch. And you'll see that the data entry fields in here are actually little calculators. So I don't have to convert that to decimal or anything. Just 1 divided by 8 will actually create that. We'll do the math and convert that to the decimal, which is 0.125. And in this case, it's actually just showing the fraction. Usually it converts it over. And we'll go ahead and name that nameplate. This is a new part. It's a solid. So here we go. We're all set and good, and hit that check mark. Now we have a solid new part. Let's go ahead and rename our part to nameplate. Matter of fact, you probably want to put your name here. This is I'm going to just put a note here. Use your name, because you're going to be turning this into me, and I would like you to provide it to me with your name so I know whose stuff I'm getting. All right, now if you notice back to our original part had rounded corners and this one doesn't. So let's go ahead and round those corners. Now we could have drawn the round corners from the beginning, but there's a really cool tool that makes this really easy. So we're going to use that, and it's called Fillet. Its shortcut is Shift F. And what we're going to do is we're going to click the corners, the short corners, these short corners here, the little tiny skinny short corners. We're going to click on those. If you accidentally click on a corner and you're like, that's not what I wanted, if I click this edge here, just click it again, unclick it. Okay, so click that, and then what are we going to? We need that one. So if you want to get that fourth corner, you can click the lower left corner of the cube here, or you can right click on your mouse and just orbit around that way. So right clicking on the mouse and moving the mouse around will let you orbit the object. And click on the object, and there you go. All right. Now we want to make that full round, so let's go ahead and make that 1/2, because that was 1 inch tall. That was the original height, and we're going to do half of that. So these are radii. You can see that we can play with this. We can use the push-pull on the arrow to do that as well, but we want that to be 1/2. And we'll just leave that called fillet. And there you go. So now I have a plate. Woohoo! So there's my back plate. Okay. If I want to change the color, you can just right click on it, edit appearance for nameplate, and you can choose a different color of your choice. Okay. Colors are great because they actually help you see things a little bit better, makes them look more realistic. Now we're going to go ahead and add the lettering. So I'm going to click a sketch, click on start a new sketch by tapping the sketch button or Shift S on the keyboard. Then we're going to tap on the front of the object. The N key on the keyboard turns you normal to, as does clicking the front button on the view cube. Either will work just fine. We're going to go ahead and put our lettering on here. So this is I'm just going to call this sketch lettering, and we're going to add our lettering. So how do we do lettering? Well, there's a lettering text. There's a text button right up here. So just click on that text button, and we're going to draw a text box. You draw a text box diagonally from the corner. So just click with your left mouse button and drag across the surface to produce a box to type your text in. This is where you put your name here. And you can see that I'm using all caps. And now we got to pick a font. So we're going to cut this out. So the best font for cutting this out is this first choice. I'll learn a stencil. This is a stencil font. So it will automatically create a font that is easily cut and the part pieces don't fall out. Hit that. And oh no, that's way too big, and yours probably will be too. So you have a couple of choices. We can make a really small choice by, come on people, oh I know what I can do, by lining this up in the center point here and then pulling that down. Or we can, by the way, this is not my recommendation. I don't recommend you do this. I think the better trick to do is to pick a word, phrase, or name that actually fits in the space neatly. So you can see here that I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters in there nicely. So, if you can't, I could make this a little bit smaller, get 6 or 7, but much more than 6 or 7 letters, you're going to have a hard time getting that in there. So I would choose between 4 and 7 letters in your text to make this particular project. Once you've done that, you're ready to move on to the next step. So if you want to make changes to it, as you probably do, you just double click on it, and that text box, let's come on, double click. Come on. How about right click and choose edit text? Usually, sometimes double click works, but that doesn't work. Right clicking works too. So we're just going to go ahead and change that text, and I'm just going to put a big old Yurko. Since, hey, why not? That's my name. No way. So that works, and that fits. You can, now you probably saw me earlier stretch it to fit, and I didn't stop to explain how that worked, because if you try it's probably not going to work so great. You'll notice in the middle of the top line is a dot. That dot is a midpoint grip, midpoint snap location. So that's the middle of the line that makes up the top of the text box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the object by that line, or grab the text box by that midpoint, and then I'm going to hover over the midpoint of the object, the origin here, and pull up. And so long as you see that dashed line and the yellow glow there, when I let go, those are going to be aligned vertically, and that's what that grayed out box with a vertical line in it means. When I let go, now if I go to pull on this, the object can't move. So since it can't move, the only way it can comply with my instructions to change it is to change size. So that's how you get that centered. We're killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. We're getting it centered, and I'm able to adjust my size. All right. So once you have your lettering done, just hit that green check mark, and now the name is ready to cut out. So let's go ahead and cut that out. Cut that out. We're going to use the same tool we used before to create a 3D object. We're going to make a 3D object again. This 3D object is going to be a cutaway. So we're going to go ahead and hit that extrude button or Shift E on the keyboard, and we're going to call that lettering again. And this is going to be a remove, and it's going to ask us for the faces and sketch regions to extrude. So easiest way to do this is to actually, instead of clicking on the shape, which sometimes works, but sometimes generates independent parts, let's just go ahead and click the lettering sketch. So we'll grab that entire sketch. As far as the depth goes, we're going to click through all, and that's all there is to it. Hit the finish button, and look at that. There you have it. There is your, well, this one's mine, but you'll make your nameplate just like that. To turn this beast in, you're going to take a screen snip of this. Make sure you put the whole darn thing in your take a picture of the entire space. So come on down to the bottom of the screen, hit the magnifying glass. Oh, I didn't grab that. Can I get that? There we go. Down here at the bottom of the screen, hit the magnifying glass, type in snipping tool. When snipping tool pops up, or snip and sketch, click snipping tool, click new. Make sure you get your whole name in here. Prefer if you could even include the whole screen so that we get the sides, because I really like to be able to see that what steps you went through. All the steps we went through to create this are visible on the left hand side. So make sure you include that. It really helps, especially if you had trouble, and that allows me to help you figure out how to fix it. You'll then click save and give it a name, save that, and upload that to the assignment to get credit for it. If you want me to print this for you, you're going to want to export this. To export it, you're going to right click on the part down here and choose the export button. And we're going to export. And you can just make sure it just has your name on it. Makes it use your name. And the format, you're going to choose SolidWorks. You have SolidWorks format. That's going to allow you to download it. Click the download button. And once it's ready, it'll download. It'll be in your downloads folder. And this file you can email to me, and I'll print it out for you. Any questions? Send me an email. I'll be ready to give you a hand. Keep being creative, keep being curious, and as always, keep being awesome.